So, it's one thing for 1 to 2 top quarterbacks in a single draft to not live up to expectations, but I don't think I've ever seen this.
News over the weekend as the Bears have traded Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We've got breaking news from the NFL. The New England Patriots are trading quarterback Mac Jones to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Continuing to follow the breaking news out of San Francisco, where the 49ers have traded Trey Lance, sending him to the Dallas Cowboys to back up Dak Prescott.
Zach Wilson, Jets quarterback, was granted permission to seek a trade. Okay, who's going to trade for him?
Exactly.
His salary's guaranteed this year. They're stuck. They're going to have to cut him,
right?
And they're going to have to eat the difference.
In just 3 years, the 2021 quarterback draft class went from the best collection of talent the NFL had ever seen at that position to largely looking like one great big class of busts. The number 1 pick that year, Trevor Lawrence, is the only first-round quarterback still viewed as the answer for his drafting team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. But even Lawrence has yet to turn into a transformative star. Meanwhile, Wilson clearly is in his last days with the Jets, who will trade or cut him eventually. Lance is a backup to the Cowboys, traded to Dallas after Brock Purdy took over as the leader of the 49ers. Fields just got shipped from Chicago to Pittsburgh, and the Patriots essentially just gave Jones to the Jaguars, who will use him as Trevor Lawrence's backup. Instead of rivaling the 1983 draft class of Hall of Famers like John Elway, Jim Kelly, and Dan Marino, or even the 2004 draft class with future Hall of Famers Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger, the 2021 quarterback class will instead be compared to the likes of the 2007 or the 2013 class. Unfortunately, they will serve as a cautionary example about how commonly teams miss when it comes to talent evaluations, projections, and developmental plans.
And I think the interesting sidelight to this is if you look back to that draft class now, it's amazing to look at. Trevor Lawrence goes 1, Zach Wilson goes 2. He could get traded this offseason. Trey Lance goes 3. He's already been traded. Mac Jones has been traded, and Justin Fields could be traded. So that decorated quarterback class just a few years ago has been on the move, will continue to be on the move, and the latest move involves Mac Jones, who now goes to back up a fellow quarterback from that draft class in Trevor Lawrence.
But what went wrong? Why are these once heralded quarterbacks still stuck in developmental stages and/or bordering bust territory? Surprisingly, each situation reveals some common themes and answers.
I think it is a special class of quarterbacks. I really do. We'll have a pick that hopefully makes everyone proud, but that will be judged in years to come. We've done our best to make sure that it's a great decision for this franchise.
Only starter left. Trevor Lawrence has not yet approached elite status, but he's the closest thing to a franchise quarterback this group has yielded. He's 20-30 as a starter with 58 touchdown passes, 39 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 63.8. His lone winning season in 2022 when they went 9-8, yielding a playoff appearance and a Pro Bowl selection after he passed for 4,113 yards, 25 touchdowns, and just 8 interceptions. However, Lawrence and the Jaguars took a slight step backwards in 2023 and missed the playoffs after an up and down year. Although Lawrence has struggled with his consistency, I think it's safe to say out of the 2021 group, he has the most promise. We also have to be fair as well. I mean, we can't underestimate how his development was severely handicapped by a rookie season marked by dysfunction and toxicity under Urban Meyer, who was fired after a 2-11 start.
Urban Meyer's tumultuous NFL tenure has ended after just 13 games and 2 victories. The Jaguars have just fired him because of what owner Shad Khan is calling missteps. The moves were made just hours after ex-Jaguar player, their place kicker Josh Lambo, told a Florida newspaper that Meyer had kicked him during a practice in August.
The Jaguars replaced him with Doug Peterson, who has been good for Lawrence, though some of the accuracy issues he exhibited in college against top-level DBs have followed him to the NFL. So, if he can stay healthy, another season in Peterson's system should help advance his development. But the Jags have to find a quality number 1 receiver to replace Calvin Ridley. Wilson's pre-draft workout and college game film showcases escapability and improvisational skills that reminded talent evaluators of, well...
I watched Zach throw the football, and it's a beautiful throw, beautiful ball. I see him throwing to his left, throwing to his right, throwing from the pocket, and his poise, and I go, well, that guy right there reminds me of Aaron Rodgers.
But BYU didn't face elite talent in 2020. Competing against schools from the Conference USA, American Athletic, Sun Belt, and Mountain West conferences. And the jump to the NFL proved far steeper for the number 2 pick than the Jets ever imagined. Zach's 3 seasons with the Jets have been, frankly, a disaster. He's 12-21 as a starter with 23 touchdown passes, 25 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 57, plus multiple benchings. In retrospect, Wilson never should have gone as early in the draft as he did, which isn't his fault. And he also needed to sit behind a veteran starter to learn and develop gradually both mentally and physically. So, because of the Jets' front office ineptitude, Wilson now faces an uncertain future. At the recording of this video, the Jets are actively trying to trade him after he struggled again as a starter following Rodgers' season-ending Achilles injury in Week 1.
The Jets have hit rock bottom yesterday, and the end of the Zach Wilson era officially happened yesterday, which is to say, the one decision that is clear is that next year they have to have a different backup. Zach Wilson's terrible. He's just a terrible player, and he doesn't get it. He doesn't see anything. In a league where backup quarterbacks are increasingly important, the Jets need a new one. Zach Wilson cannot be on this team next year, and that's it.
And while the first week of free agency featured a fair amount of quarterback movement, Wilson's name hasn't even been linked to teams and rumors or potential deals. If Zach ultimately gets cut, I'm pretty sure someone will take a chance on him as a backup. Now, Trey Lance is interesting. The quarterback came out of North Dakota State with only 1 full season of experience in 2019 after the pandemic robbed him of a full junior season. Yet, despite the obvious lack of experience, the 49ers deemed Lance worthy of trading up from the number 12 pick to take him 3rd overall, which, again, is not Trey Lance's fault.
Dan Orlovsky, what is the number one most important thought you have coming out of those huge trades on Friday?
Yeah, San Francisco went up to go get either Mac Jones or Trey Lance. I think the reality is that Kyle Shanahan, their head coach, probably loves Mac Jones, and the organization is very much so intrigued by Trey Lance.
After a season behind Jimmy Garoppolo, Lance entered 2022 as the 49ers starter, thanks largely to the fact Garoppolo was still recovering from off-season shoulder surgery. But in 2 games, Lance completed just 15 of 31 passes for 194 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception before suffering a fractured ankle and missing the rest of the season.
And Lance is down right now. That was quite the hit. Trey Lance is going to have to exit on the cart.
Adam, just so unfortunate.
Very.
You know, that's just unfortunately part of this game. It's not if, it's a matter of.
The emergence of Brock Purdy later that same season, coupled with Lance's continued developmental struggles in the 2023 offseason and training camp, caused the 49ers to lose patience. They traded Lance to Dallas for a 4th-round pick, and Lance spent the entire season at the Cowboys as 3rd quarterback, never taking a snap. The 49ers grossly miscalculated in their assessment of Lance, who eventually proved to be far more raw, less dynamic as an athlete, and not nearly as natural a thrower as they believed. But if you're going to draft a quarterback knowing he needs development, then you kind of have to give him time to, develop. Spent 1 season under Matt Nagy, who was fired after the 6-11 season, then had to start over again under Matt Eberflus and offensive coordinator Luke Getsby. Eberflus and Getsby turned Justin into much more of a running quarterback than he ever was at Ohio State, and Justin did prove dynamic as a runner. He ended up the 2022 season with 1,143 rushing yards, joining Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson as the only quarterbacks to rush over 1,000 yards in a season. However, Justin was far less dynamic as a passer, throwing for just 2,242 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions while leading the NFL in sacks and fumbles. The horrendous state of Chicago's offensive line also factored in the Fields' struggles. In year 3, Justin made slight improvements but still lacked consistency as a passer. Ultimately, he was the product of a poor developmental plan and never had the benefit of playing for coaches who truly believed in him or had a great understanding of how to tailor an offense to his strengths. Eberflus did fire Getsby following the 2023 season, but the move came just a little too late for Justin, whom the Bears traded to the Steelers as Chicago has the number 1 pick in this year's draft.
I think that Justin Fields, with his athleticism, his mobility, his ability to run with the football and extend plays with his legs and what have you, I think that's a huge plus for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, his youth, he's only 25 years of age. I think that comes into play as well. And it is clear, for the moment anyway, that Justin Fields is the future.
In all honesty, A reset is probably the best thing for Justin. He'll begin his Steelers chapter as a backup to Russell Wilson, a veteran who can help Justin further understand NFL defensive concepts and how to use his mobility as a tool to extend plays while he works to further refine his passing skill. He helped Alabama win a national championship but was never viewed as a dynamic NFL prospect. Playing for Nick Saban perhaps better prepared him for the pro game, but at that time, Jones was regarded by many talent evaluators as having the lowest ceiling as his fellow first-round quarterbacks because of average physical gifts.
Because I've had people on this program, Lewis, many of them in fact, say that Mac Jones is not good enough, he's just not as good enough a prospect to be taken that high and to be worth all they gave up to get him. So if someone were to suggest that in a draft room that you were sitting in, what would you say to that person?
Look, value is largely subjective. And look, I get the fact that Mac Jones is not, from a trait perspective, is not on the same level as Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. He's not. He would tell you the same thing. I'll tell you what, I'll end it by saying this. Some very, very, very smart quarterback tutors and former offensive coordinators who coached at a very high level in the NFL have told me they believe Mac Jones is the best quarterback in this draft.
Taken 15th by New England, he had a solid rookie season. He beat out Cam Newton for the starting job, which, I have thoughts, but I'll save that for another video. He also passed for 3,801 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, helping the Patriots go 10-7 and reach the playoffs. But he regressed in year 2 after Josh McDaniels left his job as New England's offensive coordinator to coach the Raiders. Bill Belichick then geniusly tapped former defensive coordinator Matt Patricia and former special teams coordinator Joe Judge to direct the offense rather than giving Jones a true offensive coordinator. The legendary head coach roster architect also failed to sufficiently bolster the Patriots' skill position. Despite the hiring of Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator entering Jones' 3rd season, he never really managed to regain his effectiveness and was benched on and off that whole season while going 2-9 as a starter. Mac's situation is a perfect example of, once again, team mismanagement. Despite his limitations, he excelled in college while surrounded by superior talent that helped ease pressure on him. He succeeded as an NFL rookie because the highly creative McDaniels understood how to best mask his deficiencies and position him for success. Belichick foolishly thought Patricia and Judge could do the same thing. But without McDaniels' offensive mind and lacking a talented supporting cast, he came crashing down to earth. Now he's in Jacksonville as Lawrence's backup, which truthfully, a role that best fits his skill set. So, the next crop of star college quarterbacks will enter this year's NFL draft with great fanfare and expectations. Expectations that they will change the fortunes of the teams that will invest high draft picks to acquire them. Their success will ultimately depend largely on an ability to avoid the mistakes made by the Jets, 49ers, Bears, and Patriots, and so many other teams before them, which accumulates to poor talent projection, overvalued prospects, and a failure to provide the quarterbacks with adequate coaching or roster support.